40 films, but in particular the one that's on show here, A Turning Tide in the Life of Man, took 8 years work. So can you imagine, Dara, you know and I know what it's like when you're sitting there and you're looking at your work and how much will I edit it when you've maybe got 40 minutes or 50 minutes or 2 hours, how much will I edit, how much will I throw on the floor? The editing, Loïc, of something that took 8 years must be phenomenal. Before we talk about the film, huge.
Huge, yeah. It took us a year and a half actually to edit these 400 hours of pictures. Yeah.
A year and a half in the edit.
Yeah, a year and a half sitting behind a computer. Yeah.
And I mean, to start with, when you put so much work into it, you obviously loved what you were doing. You were quite happy the way the film was going along. To start an edit like that, right? That's going in the floor, that's staying in. I'm sure you want to keep everything in at the start.
Of course, yeah. It's very frustrating all the time. But the editor is there for that. He's helping you. He's the
to remove yourself.
He's a therapist, you know. And every time you say, "I like this," you say, "Yeah, but that's not going to stay." So, and for this reason, you know, you can talk about it, and sometimes you find compromise. Yeah.
Now, the documentary, of course, we're talking about that took 8 years is A Turning Tide in the Life of Man. Tell me a bit about it, what it is, get a feel for the film for people coming here this weekend to head for it.
It's actually about us, about the citizen. It's about the European citizen, and it's about our rights in this European community. And it's I started this story following a group of fishermen, very small fishermen from small islands in Donegal, and they at some stage they were not allowed to fish anymore at all. So this group of people were just wondering how this is how is it possible? You know, how does this work? You know, how can we change this? So I followed them for 8 years, and it's really about you know how right, because it could be it's fishermen today, but it could be farmers. It's about how we are stuck in political process and European political process, you know, and how we can change things. And it's a very positive film.
And how apt that is at this current time, now that you've released this documentary, and how Europe has actually changed, particularly its landscape in the last 3-4 months. And your 8 years work, you know, a culmination of that 8 years work is on show now.
Well, it's yes, it is. It's I didn't know where I was going, you know, at the beginning of the story, and I didn't know how Europe and the government and all this political process are going to move on. And so all the time people were asking me, well, how this is going to end and what's going to happen next? Well, I don't know. So it was really all the time mysterious, you know, to follow these people and into that process. And yes, of course, Europe has changed. Government has changed. Well, I would say that Europe is changing more than the Irish government at the moment. So it's funny, you know, we got this group of Irish people and European people together, having the support of Europe, but less support from their own government. And that's what they found out as well, is that your own government is using Europe as an excuse to do bad things.
I can see a politician in you yet, or a political career, maybe not, but how poignant, how real, how right on the money you are. Very briefly, because we have to go back to the studio, how long is it? And of course you're going to have a question and answers as well. Of course,
yeah, the film is 1 hour and 46 minutes, and there'll be a question and answer after the film. And the screening is sponsored by TG and because the TG is partner of the film, and a lot of French. It's a European co-production, it's a European story. And welcome everybody.
Welcome everybody indeed. And if you want to see that culmination of 8 years work condensed into 1 hour and 40 minutes, it's called A Turning Tide in the Life of Man by Loïc Jourdain, and it's on show this weekend here at Headford at the 9th International Film Festival, Gafa. Dara, we'll talk to you again after 12 o'clock for more of the same.